Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. This is Gemini Brett of More Than Astrology here with part 9 of 2019 astrology. Some feels that I have of the year to come. If you've seen the previous parts, you've heard this wrap. I gave a very short presentation at the San Francisco Astrological Society on the Epiphany on January 6, 2019. And had about an hour to share all the slides that I'm taking many hours to share at my own pace so we can allow the planets to speak through. So I appreciate your participation in this happening and ask that if you like this video to like this video and share it around, leave a comment and that stuff. It truly helps and inspires. All right, 2019 astrology. So we've done all sorts of things in parts 1 through 8. I'm kind of rushed here because I have a meeting in 42 minutes. Very powerful number, 42. The secret to the universe, right? According to the Hitchhiker's Guide, right? Or the answer to the questions of life, the universe, and everything. I think is how that goes. Well, maybe that will come in a little bit today, but just a little bit. All right, so in part 8 we got here, and I'm sorry to start this way because I know that's heavy, but why part 8 brought us here is because I was looking at the eclipse cycles of 2019, and that's the wrong slide. And where is the right slide? Let me find one, sorry, copy and paste issue. So 2019 eclipses, right, and especially the July 2nd eclipse of 2019 is of the same Saros family as June 21st, 2001, okay, which was the prenatal eclipse for this event that changed the world in so many ways. And my prayer is that actually it will start changing the world in beautiful ways if we choose to tune in this year. And I don't want to spend too much time there. I spoke about that in the last session, and I'll speak about it at length, especially in person and events this summer, and I have some deep meditations around this. But the slide here, which is meant to be that other one, shows this as well, that in 2020, next year, whereas 2019, we're in the same Saros family of eclipses as 2001. In fact, it's the next time. Since then, in 2020, they will be on the same dates, as you can see here, and that's called the Metonic cycle. So I'm very interested in 2019. We're in the Saros repetition of the eclipse cycles of 2001, all right? And the Saros cycle is about 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. So 2019, obviously, 18 years after 2001. And there's another eclipse cycle called the Metonic cycle. That can be an eclipse cycle. All right, so I'm very fascinated by this. Like, it's likely there will actually be some hearings around the evidence that the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth have been bringing forth for 19 years now, that this year in 2019, this is likely to happen. The charts of when these letters were written and when the U.S. attorney replied, they're all fascinating to me. But I talked about that some in the last video. We'll probably speak about it some this summer when these eclipses come around, but right now I really want to dig into this because 2020, which so many astrologers are looking forward to because of the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto gathering in the sign of Capricorn. And if you've been listening to these sessions, you know a huge part of what I've been saying is be here now, dream in this year. The work of the dream of 2019 is so imperative because 2020 has a lot of energetic openings. There's a lot of portals opening. We want to come to them in a good way. And one that many, I think, will miss in the fascination with the somewhat rarity of a Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto conjunction, especially in the sign in Capricorn. It's been about 800 years since that has gone down, and so that's a big deal. And eclipses happen a couple times every year, so what? Well, on June 21st, 2001, there was a total solar eclipse here on the hand of the high man in the sacred hoop, where the galactic cross is in our day experiencing the fire of the solstice sun. So I want to unpack that a little bit. I do want to say that if you're hearing this before January 19th, and if you're in or near the Bay Area of California, I will be doing some eclipse presenting at the National Council for Geocosmic Research in San Francisco on January 19th from 1 to 3. If you're hearing this after then, that talk will be available to download online in both audio and video format. And you could go to NCGR to find that, probably also to my website, morethan.astrology.com, to find that. I think the thing in astrology which most fascinates me, there are many candidates. And actually, perhaps this is number one. All right. And so in San Francisco, when I gave this 2019 preview, I just basically showed that slide and said how imperative this is, and talked really quickly about the 2012 Maya calendar beginning date and moved along because I was forced to. But here we will take some time with what this galactic alignment is all about. So I'm going to bring you into one of the classes of my sacred astronomy course that is forthcoming, though I will say that the first 12 lessons are for free, and you can get them if you'd like at morethan.astrology.com/free. All right, and sign up with your email, and I'll send you a bunch of cool stuff, including 6 hours of sacred astronomy tutorials. All right, but here let's just quickly dive into the precession of the equinoxes and the 3 zodiacs, really 3 philosophies of zodiac at least. And they are sidereal, constellational, and tropical. All right. I wrote a very short article, one of my quarterly articles in the Career Astrologer magazine. I wrote an Astronomy for Astrologers article each quarter for that great magazine by the Organization for Professional Astrology during the year of 2018. And this was the last of the 4. And it's about this idea of the turning of the ages. So you can check that out there if you'd like. And thank you so much to amazing Anna Zaharia, who helped me co-create images like this of the 3 zodiacs. And I think we'll get into what that is a little bit. But I just want to show the tropical zodiac to you right now. Okay? So color-coded, red fire, green earth, yellow air, blue water. All right, 0 Aries is set to the left, just like we do the natural chart wheel, and Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, proceeding counterclockwise from the left point. All right. So, just picture where you are in there. My sun is at the 1st degree of Scorpio. I'm around here, right? Today, the sun is in Capricorn. It's up in this zone. Well, look at in Capricorn, this constellation, the Archer, I will say, because the constellation's name is Sagittarius, and that is very confusing because tropical Sagittarius is over there. So what I'm going to do is shift this now from the 12 equal sign tropical zodiac that most of us in the West utilize, and go to the sidereal zodiac, the most popular one, which begins 0 Libra with this star, Spica. And it is configured to the stars. And you can see there that Libra has a lot of the legs of Virgo constellation, the top of the scales, but not even all of the scales. A lot of the scales go to Scorpio, which has all of the Scorpion. Most of the Archer is in sidereal Sagittarius. You can see that this zodiac is more aligned to the constellations, but it's not completely aligned, right? We see a star of Leo here, the eye of the lion in the Cancer constellation. We can go on and on, because the deal is that the constellational zodiac, shown in the middle here with the stars, if you're looking at the 12 constellations that during the course of Earth's orbit, the year that the sun is moving through, there's 12 of those, and they're known as the zodiac to astronomers, and they are very much not of equal size. Right? Divide a circle of 360 into 12, and you get 12 equal slices of 30 degrees. And that's the zodiac, both tropical and sidereal. All right. And these are the principal the zodiacs that are utilized by astrologers, primarily in the West and the East, respectively. The constellations are not equal in size. The Virgin or Priestess constellation, and I like to differentiate signs and constellations by using these terms like Lion, Priestess, Scale, Scorpion, Archer, Goat, instead of Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, as I was first trained to do in the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. All right. But the Priestess constellation, which the astronomers will call Virgo, takes up 47 degrees of arc along the ecliptic. All right. What is the ecliptic? That's a golden circle that you see here. That is where the sun lives. Okay. So as Earth orbits the sun, we see the sun tracing this circle through the heavens that aligns like this to these 12 constellations. From Earth's point of view, it's like the sun is orbiting us, isn't it? And it's moving through these constellations during the course of 1 year. So what you see at the center of this wheel is Earth, geocentric, like our chart wheels. Okay, and you can see the cardinal directions, north, east, south, and west. I'll get back to that a little bit. I can't do too much of this today, but it's important that I at least share this idea of the different zodiacs, because without that consciousness of the cosmology, it's hard to open our awareness to the most important astronomical happening of our lifetimes. And it's not the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto gathering in Capricorn. It's not the Uranus square Pluto, or even the Uranus-Pluto conjunction, right? I mean, all these planets can come together. It's amazing. It's quite rare. Like I said earlier, the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto gathering in Capricorn, though it won't perfect in Capricorn, but they're gathering close to one another in Capricorn. That hasn't happened since like 1284 AD. It's been a while. Well, what we're getting into here is a once in 26,000 year happening, maybe once in 24,000 year happening. And there's a significant action every quarter of that cycle, every 6 to 6,500 years. But this is the big one. And this is what the Maya long count calendar was tuned to, and so many things. And it didn't just happen in December 21st, 2012. It is happening now. It was happening in a big way in 2001. And we're feeling the echoes of that sound. Even, we could say, the aftershocks of that earthquake. And I'm encouraging and inviting myself and everyone I can speak to about this to know that this is happening and to surf that wave in a good way, and to bring, I could say, twin flowers out of the pain of those twin towers. All right. So the constellations are of different size, right? If you want to have a 12 equal sign zodiac, and there's very good reasons to, and it sounds a little something like this. Just like there are 12 half steps in a musical octave, you heard 13 notes there because the top note was the doubling or the octave of the first note, okay? There are 12 half steps. That's not only something that sounds good, it's a completely geometrically perfect, beautiful, harmonic, mathematical system. And I wish I brought some drawings over here, but I could show you some sacred geometry that also shows you why why creation creates in 12s. 12 also offers not only polarity, but triplicity and quadruplicity, 3s and 4s, which 10 does not, for example. So there's an important reason why number magic brings us 1 through 9, and there's a very important reason why number magic brings us 1 through 12. And that's a very long story for an entire lifetime. That's something that is where my students begin, actually, with the numbers and the shapes and the music and the astronomy. And then we enter the astrology in a way where we are now more prepared to receive the information directly, having prepared the vessel for a place that astrology, this goddess, likes to live. All right. So the sidereal zodiac is aligned to the stars. and it divides the heavens into 12 equal slices. All right, so the most popular sidereal zodiacs, sidereal meaning of the stars, begin with this star, Spica, and begin 0 degrees sidereal Libra, which is shown in the purple here on the outer ring. Okay, so the written Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, etc. That's the sidereal zodiac. Okay, you'll see that it's not aligned, these purple lines, to the tropical zodiac, which are the blue lines here. All right, or that it's not aligned to the constellations either. I mean, many sidereal astrologers, I find this really interesting. They argue with me that the sidereal zodiac is the only right one, that the tropical zodiac is wrong because it's aligned to the constellations. And then I love to inform them, but your Libra begins with a star in Virgo. And it's amazing that many actually don't know that. Well, many tropical astrologers don't know that our signs, the tropical signs, do not align to the constellations at all. In fact, they're off by 1 at least, all right? My sun is 0 degrees tropical Scorpio here. Yeah, so I'm sidereal Libra and constellational Virgo. I mean, what a mess. So I just call myself Gemini Brett. It is my personal feeling that we need to tune both into the heavenly, the sidereal, the of the stars, and the earthly, the tropical, the of the tropicals, the earth. It's the earth-sun relationship that defines the tropical zodiac, which you've heard me say, if you follow my work, if there's one gift I could possibly leave for our community before I check out, it is the reminder that the tropical zodiac is a shamanic system of the cardinal directions. Like so many global shamanic systems, it is about the cross of the directions, right? You know, I have some slides for this, but I feel like I just want to show it in this way. Earth, all right? What is the primary experience of astronomy? And the answer is day and night. Sorry, this lighter is bugging me. The answer is day and night, right? I mean, one is hot and one is cold. One is dry, one is wet. Or, you know, you only have to live for 24 hours to experience that. And it is because of this, right? The earth spins, and so the sun rises and reaches and rests and roots and rises the next day, right? The secondary motion is Earth's orbit about the sun, right? And very importantly, the axis of Earth's primary motion, which is our spin axis running through Earth's north and south poles, all right? And it's plane of that primary motion, which is called the celestial equator, which is Earth's equator projected out to space. So I'm kind of looking like this, right? Just putting that spin axis, and I'm orienting to the primary motion, or the diurnal daily spin, right? Earth spins west to east, so we see the heavens rising in the east and resting in the west. And that includes the sun, but I like to call this the circle of matter, the celestial equator, because though it features such hits as sunrise and sunset, this primary motion is really completely a function of Earth, right? So Earth, matter, circle of matter, celestial equator, celestial pole, which leads to the north and south celestial poles. All right, we're going to get back to that. Well, this spin axis is tilted in respect to the orbital axis. All right, by an angle of about 23.5 degrees. This is the reason for the seasons, and I hope you know this. This axis always leans north and south, which where I'm sitting is right there. I know because Polaris is right there, North Star, okay? So as the Earth orbits the sun, that axis stays oriented in the same direction. And when the southern axis is pointing towards the sun, it's southern hemisphere summer solstice and northern hemisphere winter solstice. And the opposite is true here. Okay, well, in the tropical zodiac, what day is it when the sun is due north of Earth when the Earth north axis is leaning exactly towards the sun. This happens once a year in the orbit, and we call it June solstice. In the northern hemisphere, we call that summer solstice, okay? And that is when the sun is due north of Earth. Well, the Earth is always pointing in that direction. You feel that? So it's really, from our point of view, it's just the sun visiting this place that is always there. And in the tropical zodiac, we call that place, which is north, we call it 0 degrees Cancer. And that's what you can see in this slide. At the bottom of the slide, you see the direction north, and it's the cusp of Gemini and Cancer. Now, that cusp rises in the east every day, actually in the northeast, wherever you live. But that's because the houses are particular. They're of the surface, just like Europe and Asia are different places culturally, by cuisine, etc., right? There's going to be a different degree of the zodiac rising in Asia than there is in Europe. I probably should have used America and Asia as examples, but I hope you know what I'm saying. That is the houses, particular, out, in, whole is the center of the earth. That's where the tropical signs emanate from, okay? Because very importantly, the tropical zodiac is literally aligned to the cardinal directions. Why, if 0 Cancer is due north, could it possibly rise in the east? Because there's my north in California, and then there's the north of Earth, which is defined by where the axis is pointing. And when my north every day aligns with the north, that's when in my own sky, 0 Aries is rising, because 0 Cancer is due north. It's that way always for the entire Earth, for the whole, which is signs. And it's that way once a day for every particular location on Earth, local, surface, above, which is houses. Okay, so there's the particular and the whole. Just like you and I are pointing to different stars right now, if we draw down through our spines, we will meet in the center of our beautiful Earth, the heart of Gaia. And that is where the tropical zodiac emanates from. The tropical zodiac will forever remain to the cardinal directions of Earth. Yeah? And therefore, it is an Earth-based thing. Its relationship to the stars changes over long periods of time, in a sense, every day, though it's seemingly imperceptible. Okay. The sidereal zodiac of the stars is coming to the Earth from the heavens. And this is what most people feel astrology is. This is why NASA argues that astrologers are wrong, because our signs and constellations are different things. But they don't understand what tropical astrology really is, which is Earth's directions. And the directions are completely formed by Earth's primary motion. And that plane of spin in respect to Earth's secondary motion creates this circle called the ecliptic, which we divide in 12 because creation creates in 12. If there's an astronomical reason, it will have to do how many new moons there are a year, which is not perfectly 12, and that's too long of a trip, and I'm going way deeper than I meant to anyway here. Let's go a little deeper then. Screw it. All right. So the tropical zodiac, very importantly, is aligned to the cardinal directions, always, 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 which are formed by Earth's spin. The primary motion, the secondary motion, the rotation, and the revolution basically aligned to bring us the tropical zodiac. And the sidereal zodiac shown here is about the stars. The constellational zodiac is the constellations, which do not divide the ecliptic, the golden circle seen here, into 12 equal slices, like both the tropical and sidereal zodiacs do, because creation creates in 12. Now, the tropical and sidereal zodiacs will not always be aligned this way, because the cardinal directions, and therefore the tropical zodiac is slowly shifting against the background of stars. Why? This from a NASA page. All right. Why? Because let's get into some more of the astronomy of the thing. This is the tropical zodiac. And what I'm showing here, you can see the sun. It's at the 0 Aries point, the Aries equinox point. That means this is the March equinox. The image here is oriented to the primary motion of Earth. You can see Earth's spin axis on the vertical, right? And so that blue circle on the horizontal, that is the celestial equator, or the circle of matter, as I like to call it, because it's all about the Earth. I'll tilt this now from that primary motion and reference the secondary motion. Now the horizontal is the ecliptic plane, right? So that's the plane in which the sun lives. And sometimes, most extremely, at 0 degrees Capricorn, which you see on the left, the sun is very far south, below the celestial equator. In fact, it shines at that time over latitudes on Earth that are 23.5 degrees south of the equator. At equinox, it shines right over the equator. And at June solstice, it shines right over the Tropic of Cancer, which is 23.5 degrees north of the equator here, just as the Tropic of Capricorn is 23.5 degrees south of the equator, right? So the ecliptic, the circle of spirit, as I like to call it, because that's where the sun lives, it cuts the Earth at the tropics, okay? Not at specific points of the tropics, what I'm showing here, because the Earth is always spinning, right? But that ecliptic moving through the Earth, which is actually the average radius of Earth as well, 3,960 miles, that cuts through the tropics, whereas the celestial equator, because it's the spin axis, is the equator, right? Perpendicular to the spin. It's not the spin axis. The celestial equator is the spin plane. It's just too fast to present this stuff, but hopefully like the images are helping you grok that a little bit. So currently, the pole is pointing to Polaris in the north, North Star. But those names will not hold forever for that star because it will not be our North Star forever. So what we're seeing here is the red, the spin axis, and then you see the arrows. That's for the primary motion, the spinning or diurnal daily motion of Earth. But see this other arrow up top. This is what the astronomers teach is the cause of the precession of the equinoxes. And what I want to get into, which is galactic alignment. They call it axial precession, and say that Earth, which we know is spinning, day, which we know is orbiting, year, is also on this wobble. And the reason that we're told is because the gravitational forces of sun and moon are pulling on Earth's equatorial bulge in such a way that it forces this precessional motion, which is backwards in respect to the primary and the secondary motions. Earth spins west to east, so we notice the heavens moving east to west, which is relativity. Earth also orbits west to east. And we see the sun moving through the constellations and through the signs west to east as a result of that. But the precessional motion, while the spin is west to east, this very slow precessional motion, or what they say is the wobble of the axis, is east to west. And while this takes one day, and this takes 1 year, the great year, one full circling of the axis, takes 26,000 years. We say it's 72 years for 1 degree of this great 360-degree circle, and 72 years for 1 degree times 360 degrees equals 25,920 years. All right, so we say 26,000 years. Now, the current accepted number by NASA is like 25,771 years. Some of the old traditions, or new images of the old traditions, say 24,000 years because the rate changes. I will say that this whole idea of precession being caused by this wobble by the moon and sun, mostly pulling on Earth's equatorial bulge or muffin top, that was defined by Newton in the 18th century. And it was at a time where our cosmology did not consider that the sun was moving through space. And it is. And we very much know that. I said 18th, but I should say 17th century, because it was in the 18th century when we figured out that Earth with the sun and our whole system is moving through space very quickly. Well, if we're moving through space, wouldn't that mean that the orientation of the directions is changing in respect to the heavens over time? We're moving very quickly, but space is very, very, very big. So it's a very slow shifting. That could be part of the reason of precession. It might not just be this thing. Sri Yari Yukteswar, who was Yogananda's teacher, said that precession is actually the result of our star, Sol, orbiting another star, that we're part of a binary system. And that as our star orbits this other star, all of the planets are getting pulled through space, so the orientation in this regard of our axis is changing to space as a result of that motion. I'm not saying that's true. I find it to be an amazing model. Where's that star? That is the question, right? And there's a cool book that you can check out that's called The Lost Star of Myth and Time by Walter Cruttenden, where he really gets into that. He claims that our star, that our sun is orbiting, is Sirius. There's reasons why I feel that can't be so, but it doesn't necessarily matter for here. So we can just go with the astronomical idea that this thing is wobbling. All I can say for sure is that the orientation of the cardinal directions, and therefore the tropical zodiac, is shifting in regard to the heavens. So let's look at a couple of images of this as we move through here. And now I got to go really quickly. So this Anna and I put together for that article here, which you can find at astrology.org. I think that the new edition of Career Astrologer is just made public. I'm not sure. If not, it will be soon. And I should post that on my website, which is morethan.astrology.com. And Anna and I made this as a lot to look at, but what I would just like bring your attention to for now is the idea that the cardinal directions, which is the tropical zodiac, are slowly precessing or moving backwards through the sidereal zodiac and the constellations. And it's because maybe the axis is wobbling. Either way, these things are definitely happening. So Polaris won't always be our North Star. Our North Star about 5,000 years ago was Fluben. Polaris has been our new North Star. It's a very dialed in one. And sometime from now, we'll have a new North Star. Here's an image of those. This one came, I think, from Wikipedia. This one definitely did. These are the North Pole stars over time. You know, there's some disagreement about the ages and whatnot. Here's the South Pole stars over time. We don't currently have a South Pole star. Right now, where are we? I guess, yeah, we're here somewhere. Anyway, I don't have time to really unpack all of that. So that is the circle of spirit, as I call it. It's the ecliptic. It's where the sun lives. And I want to take our attention now to this very important cross of the heavens. Okay. Which is the galactic center and the galactic anti-center. You can see those two pink crosses there. So some of the crosses we consider, especially as tropical zodiac astrologers, is the crossing of the ecliptic and the celestial equator. Those are the equinox points. That's basically where we define the tropical zodiac from. 0 Aries, which is always due east of the Earth center, and east is the place of the rise of new beginnings. And 0 Libra, which is always due west of Earth center. And I should say that's 0 tropical Aries and 0 tropical Libra. There's these other crosses, other planes. One, the circle of spirit, which is the ecliptic, the plane of the Earth-Sun experience. And this other one, the galactic equator, which is the plane of our Milky Way. And at one of the two crossing points that we're looking at here is the galactic center. It's hard to see in this image, but if you know the sky well, and it's a beautiful thing, you have to get away from the city lights. But this is the place of the great galactic bulge. So many stars, and it looks literally like the rainbow serpent or the cosmic serpent biting its own tail. And is happening right here, always, okay? between the stinger of the scorpion and the arrow of the archer. And together with the foot of the serpent or Ophiuchus, they all point to the center of our galaxy, all right, which in our day and age projects to, because it's not on the ecliptic. The ecliptic is shown in this image that came from an incredible book I'll reference in a second. But this ecliptic here, you can see GC, which is galactic center, and how it's not right on that plane. All right? It's south of the ecliptic. And so what we do with stars like Antares, the heart of the scorpion, is we draw perpendicular lines from them to the ecliptic plane to say where they fall in the tropical zodiac. All right? And in our day and age, galactic center is projecting to 27 degrees Sagittarius. But very importantly, that is the radio telescope measured and calculated galactic center, okay, that we can't necessarily see. It's a powerful place in space. And astrologers often work with the galactic center at 27 degrees tropical Sagittarius, which is 3 degrees sidereal Sagittarius, which is very interesting because that's the exaltation of a lunar node in the Jyotish or Vedic system. Found that fascinating. But I will say that there's that galactic center, the mathematically measured and projected galactic center. It's very important. But then there's also the visible galactic center, which we'll call the galactic cross. I'm rereading this incredible book again, maybe for the 5th time. Highly recommended for all astrologers and everyone. Galactic Alignment by John Major Jenkins, who sadly passed last year. But I'm very excited that I was able to connect with him some before and really speak about these different things in these cosmologies. And I'm very, very excited to be returning to the Maya lands next week to explore these alignments that seem to have been celebrated by the great Maya long count calendar, as we call it, that recycled on December 21st, 2012. And John Major Jenkins shows us not only from the Maya cosmology, which he first presented in a wonderful book called Maya Cosmogenesis, but here in Galactic Alignment, he basically summarizes what his presentation in that wonderful book, and then adds things from the British and the Egyptian and the Vedic, and check it out. All right. So this is the visible galactic center, right? I mean, almost every picture you see of the Milky Way, search Milky Way on Google, and you get this, right? It's so beautiful and so powerful, and it literally is the center of our spiral galaxy where astronomers say there's a supermassive black hole, right? And that's Sagittarius A star, they'll say, and that's down here, right? That image that we were looking at before that said GC. But visibly, the sun aligns to the cross of the Milky Way right here, okay? And that's the galactic cross, we'll call that. Well, one of them. Because also on the exact opposite side of the zodiac, there is another cross here. And if you've been watching this presentation since the beginning, before perhaps all that astronomy got us out of whack, you'll notice that there is this place of the sky that I called the Hand of the High Man, which is a Celtic term for the top of Orion's club. All right? And here in this land, the Lakota people, Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, called this the sacred hoop of stars. I'll go back here to stars you might be more familiar with and just point them out. Hopefully you can see my mouse. This is Capella of the Charioteer. This is Castor and Pollux, the twins. Procyon, the little dog. Regal, the foot of Orion. Oh, sorry, I skipped Sirius, the big dog here. Regal, the foot of Orion, and Aldebaran, the eye of the pole. Astronomers today call this the winter hexagon. I have a very long 3-hour, 33-minute, 33-second presentation focused on how the builders of Washington, D.C. honored this in the Capitol building. It's weird and early for me, but still maybe my best work. It's called The Star Mysteries of D.C. You can find that on YouTube. Maybe I'll add that to this 2019 playlist. I'm not sure. The Lakota work with, instead of Aldebaran, they work with the Pleiades here, okay? And show this as, in the sky, the sacred hoop. And it's said that's where souls come from. All right. And the Lakota say, at least in the great book, Lakota Star Knowledge, that our souls will go to a place that sets in the southwest. Well, in that time, in our time now, Galactic Center sets in the southwest. And it said that the souls come from the sacred hoop over here, and then we walk the spirit road, which is the Milky Way, to our destination, which sets in the southwest. Well, some have called in the mystery schools this place, the sacred hoop, the silver gate, where the souls come from. And on the other side, Galactic Center, the golden gate, where souls go. Or the silver and golden keys of St. Pete. So for the Lakota, it's very fascinating, as above, so below, that heavenly happening where the souls come from, but also it is a Nipi, or sweat lodge in the sky, where we will go to be purified before we walk the spirit road, the Milky Way, to this places where souls go, which I believe is Galactic Center. That place, that Nipi of the sky, is also on earth, and it is not only where the souls come from out of heaven, but where the souls came from on earth, because the Lakota speak about coming from the Black Hills inside the earth. And the Black Hills in current South Dakota, that is where there are monuments on the earth, like the Sacred Tower or the Bull's Horn, which sadly is now called Devil's Tower in most people's consciousness. That is also known as the Bear's Den of the Heaven, which is the constellation that in the West we call Gemini. All right. So check out Lakota Star Knowledge by Ronald Goodman. It's an amazing text. And check this out. Here is the current tropical zodiac, which changes over time. I think here what I will do is rewind and we'll show the sidereal zodiac, okay? The tropical zodiac was aligned with the sidereal in about 500 AD. I'm just going to leave that there for now. I have to go. So very importantly, I just want to show this again. Here's the current tropical zodiac, all right? Aligned to the directions. We'll look at where the direction north, the Gemini Cancer cusp is, on the hand of the Hymen, as the Celts called this. And look at where the direction south, the Sag Capricorn cusp is. Tropical 0 degrees Capricorn, December solstice, sun, is now aligned to the galactic cross at the galactic center. I think I said that we'd get back maybe to 42. Well, the Orion Nebula in Orion's sword. Let's see if there's anything else I want to show here. The Orion Nebula in Orion's sword is Messier object number 42. And it's now aligned to the Earth cross. The cardinal directions are aligned to the galactic cross, the heavenly cross. This only can happen with either east, south, west, or north aligning to the galactic crosses here and here every quarter turn of the precessional cycle. If it's 26,000 years, that means every 6,500 years, one of these cardinal directions will precess to the galactic crosses, okay? Why is this the big one? Because December solstice is the birth of the sun. We can say that from the northern hemisphere perspective because it's when days grow longer, but very importantly from a global perspective, because the earth and because the sun are moving towards the direction earth calls north, the sun at December solstice begins moving in our perspective northward. So it is at that time every year when our apparent view of the sun is moving in the direction that it's also moving through the heavens. This is a global image of the birth of the suns. And I know that can sound very complicated, but it's real. And it is now aligned to this place that was seen in so many cultures and myths and more as a birthing place for the sun, as a rebirthing place for the sun, this mouth of the serpent, which will eat the sun and rebirth it, just as it does its own tail. Well, what's a more common image for the sun being eaten and then appearing once again? And the answer is a total solar eclipse. And that looks like the end of that. Perfect, because what we want to go to is this image. So this is June 21st, 2001. This is the prenatal eclipse for the Twin Towers attack, right on the hand of the high man in the sacred hoop. And in 2020, we will have an eclipse at the galactic cross on that side of the sky, June 20th. Okay, it's an annular solar eclipse. At opaastrology.org, you can check the articles and also see an eclipse article I wrote where I speak about metonic strings of eclipses and the Saros cycle. And again, in 2019, we are in the Saros return of the 2001 eclipse cycles. The metonic 19 years is when the phase of the moon is repeated for a calendar day. So a new moon repeats every 19 years. Because the nodes, and as you watch part 8 of this, you'll know that new moons or full moons need to meet near the nodes for an eclipse to be a thing. Because the nodes move not on a 19-year cycle, but on an 18.6-year cycle, the 19-year new moon repetition will slip from the nodes, and therefore you cannot have an eclipse every 19 years in the same day. When you do have a new moon, you have either 4 or 5 of these in a row. And the strongest one of these in this current metonic string of the June solstice was 2001. Okay, so we're kind of starting to distance energetically from that a little bit, because instead of a total solar eclipse, this one will be annular on June 20th, 2020 next year. And it's something that I think this year in the Saros return, we are energetically preparing for. Because this literally, June 21st, 2001, for all of the reasons that I'm sharing today and many, many more, might be the most important astronomical happening of our lifetimes. It was a different thing that the Maya were celebrating in 2012, which is looking at the other side of the sky and the sun aligning to the galactic center, or the galactic cross there, which actually perfected in 1998. But this total solar eclipse here on the hand of the high man. And, you know, we often reference, and I didn't really speak about the dawning of the age of Aquarius, but I do in the article that I referenced before, which you can find at opaastrology.org. And the confusion about when the dawning of the age of Aquarius is, and the reason why there should be confusion. But this is not confusing. The solstice is aligned to the galactic crosses now in our time. And it's not a 1-year thing. It wasn't 2012. It wasn't 2001. It might have perfected most mathematically in 1998, but there's some time on either side. In fact, it's happening right now, still in 2019, in 2020. But this total solar eclipse there is so powerful. So we often, in speaking about the turning of the ages, will speak about this quote from Jesus, who told his disciples when they asked when supper would be, Passover, he said, "Follow the man bearing the pitcher of the water and the house in which he dwells. Go upstairs." And it really seems like he's speaking water bearer about Aquarius and the dawning of the age of Aquarius, just as mythically this birth of the Lamb of God, Aries, who became the fisher of men, Pisces, you see, was speaking about this great transformation, this precession of the equinoxes, which takes us through the astrological ages. Well, in the next page of the New Testament, when Jesus is on trial and he's being asked basically to publicly blaspheme so that they can crucify him, and he does when asked, did you say this? Are you the Son of the Blessed One? And he said, yeah, and you will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven, that's the Milky Way, friends, sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One. And that's Orion. So if the Son of Man is actually the sun in our sky, every year it aligns here to galactic anticenter on this galactic cross, but only in our day and age is that happening in June solstice, which is the height of the light or the glory of the king for the northern hemisphere, like Israel, where this trial took place, you see. There are many prophecies that point to this, and not this eclipse, But I will say that this was the major moment of it, and we have felt it on Earth, and it's still happening, and we have an opportunity now to align our awareness of that and understand how powerful that is for us to choose to see the power of our own collective co-creation and choose now together to dream into a more beautiful essence, because the aftershock of that earthquake or the echo of that sound will be something that, if we choose to resonate with it in a different way, can shift into one of the most beautiful experiences and powerful and fast turnarounds for our collective in the entire history of consciousness. I think, but I told you, this year for me is a year to embrace the woo. See you in space, friends.